We are live. Welcome everybody to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live. My name is Julia Solis. I will be your host for the day, but I'm also the marketing manager at Salesforce Ben. Thank you for joining us. Just a heads up, I will be jumping in and out of Spanish and English for the first couple of minutes since we are being joined by so many people who speak Spanish, who speak Portuguese. Sadly, I don't speak Portuguese, so Spanish will have to do. Hola a todos. Bienvenidos, soy Julia Solís, la manager de marketing en Salesforce Ben. Muchísimas gracias por contribuir y por venir a esta conversación tan importante. Oh, sorry. Vale, this webinar will be recorded. It's all the mics are going to be muted. So anybody who is watching and has any questions for our speakers, just drop them in the comments in LinkedIn or on YouTube. This video is going to be recorded and will remain permanently on this very page, as well as our YouTube channel on Salesforce Ben. Para todos vosotros que no sepáis hablar inglés o perdonar por la gente que no sabe, bueno, que habla portugués o español y no sepa muy bien el inglés, este webinar va a ser grabado y permanecerá permanentemente en esta página y también en YouTube, en el canal de Salesforce Ben. Perdonadme, estoy un poco nerviosa. Así que la gente que sí que entiende un poco el inglés, pero necesite un poco de ayuda, habrán subtítulos autogenerados por LinkedIn y lo podéis ver aquí abajo, que hay una opción en LinkedIn. Pues ahora, let me introduce our lovely speakers. Hi, Jose. Hi, Lucy. How are you?
Hello, hola. And bom dia to all the Portuguese listeners as well. So I'm Lucy. I head up operations at Salesforce Ben. I am based in the UK, but I do love Latin America. I've been traveling a bit around there. I've been to Costa Rica, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Cuba. So love the region. And thank you all for joining us. So yeah, I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for 9 years, and I've worked in a variety of roles, ISV side, at a consultancy, and I specialized as a Pardot consultant before joining Salesforce Ben, and I founded a blog called The Drip, which is focused on Pardot and Marketing Cloud, well, now Account Engagement and Marketing Cloud. So I have lived and breathed the Salesforce community for a long time, and Jose, take it away.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity here. And I'm a Salesforce consultant over at
Hi, Jose. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt a little bit. We can't hear you too well.
How about now?
Much better.
Yes, there's the super fantastic microphone.
Yeah. So I'm Jose. I'm a Salesforce consultant over at Fusion Span, and I'm also the founder of LATAM, Salesforce community or ecosystem community for Latin America and the Caribbean. Still a work in progress, but should get more info soon.
Jose, when are we going to know that information?
Well, hopefully I can make an announcement at the end of the year, but for now, everyone's more than welcome to join us at our Slack community. You can use the QR code there, and I think that we're also going to be sharing a comment in the chat. So if you want to start building connections, getting to know people, and helping people coming into the ecosystem, you're more than welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you both for being here. I'm definitely going to be joining that community, and everybody out there watching, I do suggest that you do the same. Jose is very insightful, and I bet he's going to bring a lot of value to the Salesforce community in Latin America. So for anybody who didn't know, Salesforce Ben recently launched a survey. The purpose of this survey is to better understand the current status of Salesforce career opportunities in Latin America. And it's going to give a leg up to people over there who are looking to upskill and to not only upskill, but maybe even begin a Salesforce career, and just to understand what can they do, what can they learn. So if this pertains to you, please do participate. The survey is going to end on Sunday. And we can use all the information, that we can get. It's going to be available in English, in Spanish, and in Portuguese. So without further ado, let's actually get into the content, and let's dive in. So Jose, Lucy, tell me, why are we having this conversation? Why is it important that we're launching this survey?
Go on, Jose. You go first.
Yeah, guess I'll take that. It's there's a lot to unpack there. I guess the first thing is with how Salesforce is propagating, in Latin America, like there are a lot of questions that need answers. With how diverse Latin America is, each individual country is very unique. They have their own cultures, economies, currencies. So there's definitely a lot of questions as to how the future of all of these professionals that are investing so much time and energy into learning about Salesforce and venturing into these positions, that I feel that we need to start somewhere. So I think that this is a great start for us to talk more about the region as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And on salesforceben.com, our kind of tagline is advance your Salesforce career, because we just found that all the content that we're producing, it aligns to that tagline. So salary guides have been something we've been doing for a few years now for different personas. And we did notice, like, okay, so this is the fastest growing region, but there's no data on the salary benchmarks for the region. And it's a huge amount of people that, don't know where the benchmarks lie. Some people could say that the Salesforce ecosystem, the salaries are inflated. I would say maybe, yes, but also individuals may not be actually aware of how much they should be paid, how much their work is valued. So Salesforce is the beating heart for organizations, and people should be compensated based on the value they bring. Add into the mix all of the other roles that are becoming more popular in the Salesforce ecosystem as well. And, as Jose said, there are so many variables. And I think that's something that we're going to have to take into consideration when we do look at the data. We've asked things like, which currency do you get paid in, as well as your salary? So there's going to be a lot of slicing and dicing with the data there. It's, obviously location is a factor, but it's not as simple as an admin in this country gets paid this much, because there are so many factors to consider.
Yeah, I guess to piggyback off that, another really important thing is the countries that have an official Salesforce presence, right? Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. So there's bound to be a lot more opportunities there and a lot more interest in getting professionals there. For example, there's always career fairs and just great opportunities overall. The biggest consulting companies often look at these countries first. Me being in El Salvador, it's a lot more difficult for me to opt into that just because I'm based out of El Salvador. So it's not something that is in the top of mind of most recruiters. So hopefully, we can also find how we can improve that.
Absolutely. And Jose, I know that when we first spoke, you showed me a bit of a breakdown of like, okay, where are actually Salesforce professionals based? So it'd be very interesting to compare that year over year, because at the moment there are the hubs, and all the data actually would be very interesting to compare year on year. And I think that's something that we do intend to do. But it's not just about the salary as well. Love to track over time people's sentiments about how they feel how they feel on the Salesforce career path trajectory.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, you're talking about when we met, like, I have to say that's probably one of my top 3 Salesforce moments ever. Yeah, like, I feel like that's something really important with Salesforce as a whole. Like, you just need to take the shot, like, you just need to put yourself out there. And I just sent you and Ben a DM, and we met, and you proposed the survey. I just couldn't believe it.
Yes, exactly. Because we did one for India a couple of years back, and the insights we got from that were so interesting. And I think it's going to be the same for Latin America.
Yeah.
I agree. They are pretty famous in the Salesforce world as well, Lucy and Ben. But I want to take this a step, back. Excuse me, Jose. You have so much knowledge about Salesforce. So how did you get into it? Like, how did you transition into the Salesforce ecosystem? Did you find any obstacles? What's your story?
Yeah, I guess that it's going to draw parallels to some of the audience members, and maybe people can post in the comments their experience, how they ended up transitioning over to Salesforce. I think that most of the professionals that currently work in Salesforce are people that segued from another industry. So there's like other CRMs, right? Other ERPs, different systems that maybe made that easier. But at least in my case, it was I started off in call centers, so just very basic outsourcing, and it was rough. I feel that a lot of people share that sentiment, but it's just hard to get out of that and get a real opportunity, mainly with how Latin America works. Like there's a lot of nepotism, there's a lot of promotion ceilings, right? So it's overall very difficult to really stand out in the industries in your specific country. Whereas now with Salesforce, it's global, right? There are opportunities everywhere. You can work for a Canadian company, for a US company, someone in Europe. Maybe there's a new consulting company in your country. Maybe you want to just branch out and become an independent consultant, right? So there's thousands of opportunity. And on my end, I started off when I was a business analyst for an insurance company called Total Insurance Solutions. Shout out to Joe Martin. He really just kicked off all of this. So he was using an insurance-specific CRM. And after playing around with it, clearly it wasn't scalable. So I did a lot of research, found multiple options, looking at pricing, integrations, and Salesforce just stood out above the rest. Not only for the company, but for my professional career. As soon as I saw everything, like market shares, their progression, and everything, I knew I had to be a part of this. So afterwards, I was able to get a position over here at Ben, which is great. My first actual consultant role. The team is great, and yeah, like it's difficult. And I guess the other thing I would want to mention with all of this is that at the same time, I also became very invested in the whole community side of it. So I'm also a Trailblazer community leader. I'm also a Slack, Tableau, and MuleSoft recently. So I'm all about that, trying to see how I can leverage all of these resources. And I guess that's the biggest barrier to entry for most new Salesforce professionals is there's way too much information. Right? Like there's like 5 different sites. There's a Salesforce Talent Alliance, right? So many things that the Pathfinder program doesn't really apply to Latin America, but like there are a lot of things that if you aren't aware of, you're missing out. So that's kind of where I draw from for this community to kind of consolidate all of these resources into one to really help and guide new people coming into the industry.
Yeah. And totally agree. What a great story. And also to echo that, I think how I got into the Salesforce ecosystem is not an exciting story, to be honest. I graduated trying to find a job, landed in Salesforce. I didn't know what Salesforce was, but my dream originally was never to work in tech, but wow, it's been such a fulfilling career for me. And I think what became very apparent to me early on is that you can take matters into your own hands. Trailhead is open. So if you want to progress, that you have access to that. So it's not like other careers, traditional careers, where you have to be sat in a seat at a desk for so many years. You can find other ways to find mentors to do those extracurricular things to progress. Not massively fast, because experience is so important, but more so you have more power, more autonomy than other industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we joke around with some of my coworkers that like, why did I get a bachelor's? I should have just gone straight into Salesforce, and I'm probably making more money with those added 3 or 4 years of experience.
What did you study?
Business administration.
Oh, it's somewhat related.
Yeah, sure. Let's say so.
Yeah. Lucy, you studied geography, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice. I know my way around South America.
That's cool.
I know where you all are.
Step number 1. I think you kind of already gave a brief intro into this question, but what is the current state of Salesforce career opportunities in Latin America?
I feel like it's rapidly expanding. The pandemic, COVID, and work from home are definitely things that are pushing towards this, where a lot of companies are looking at these secondary job markets, right? In the US, like as we talked about, salaries are super inflated. You have someone with 7+ years of experience, 10+ certifications. That's going to run you a pretty penny, And the other piece that's important is job mobility. Professionals don't really stay too long, and like it's common knowledge that if you want a substantial increase in your salary, that's not going to happen in the same company. It's probably going to happen by moving over to another one. So going back to the pandemic and work from home, something that's really key here is the resurgence of companies that provide HR services and also payroll services. So with that in place, companies or the investment or monetary investment that a company would have to make in order to hire someone from Latin America is little to none. So I feel it's just a matter of time for this to continue happening. And I feel like there are great reasons why people want to hire in Latin America. We have a very similar culture to a lot of to the United States and Canada. We're on the same time zone. Our English is for the most part really great. So I feel like there are a lot of positives by which companies are choosing Latin America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was, I spent a few months in Colombia, and when I was working there, I also was working alongside in the co-working space with people who were working for American companies. And this was pre-COVID, the whole, like, it's okay to work remotely. So I can only imagine that trend's got more. I mean, to your question, Julia, the current state of Salesforce career opportunities, obviously I'm not from the region, I can't speak to that. But what I'd really love to see is how this develops year on year. So we just, if you can contribute to the survey, because it gives us more data points to then look at the trends. Maybe I mentioned that a bit prematurely, but that's I'll be more informed about the career opportunities in Latin America once we get analyzing the data.
No, I mean, it's fine if you jump the gun. It's, as you said, this is going to be evolving data, and it's very important that we have at least the basis so we can see how it progresses. So thank you. I'm just going to remove this again. So by the way, everybody who is watching, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So if you have any questions for Jose or Lucy, drop them below. If you have any experiences that you want to share or any advice for anybody else who is in the same boat, it's good to connect in the comments section over here. But let's go back in here. Mm-hmm. So why do you think companies are outsourcing these jobs to Latin America?
Well, I guess we kind of touched upon that a little bit in the previous question. Something I might want to add to it is, I guess LinkedIn, like for anyone starting out, like that's probably your key to success. Apart from leveraging Salesforce, Trailhead, the community, etc., your real segue into the Salesforce job market is LinkedIn at its core. Having those keywords in your profile to direct those recruiters over to you. But yeah, I feel like it's just a matter of time for recruiters to kind of see the value in hiring in other countries outside of the big four, Colombia, Argentina, Mexico, the ones that basically have an official Salesforce presence.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, can I jump in with something? So there was something raised in the comments that I think might be quite good to talk about, seeing as we're on the topic. We had a comment. I think English is an obstacle for Latin American professionals, but I suppose then you said you grew up with English, so maybe if you have something to say around that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I had the opportunity to be in a bilingual high school, so I pretty much had everything in English except PE and Spanish. So everything was very Americanized. Lower, middle, high school, we had AP exams, we had SATs, so everything was very similar. So I had that opportunity, to really work on my English, and added to that my experience with call center, where I was talking to people 24/7. in terms of career opportunities and how English goes into that, I guess the biggest thing is what role are you going to be doing, right? If you're going to be a developer, there's probably less need for great English, but if you're going to be client facing, it's absolutely essential. So yeah, like I guess that would be the addition to what you should be doing, working on Trailhead, learning, leveraging the community, getting set up on LinkedIn and added to that, English. And that's actually something I want to do for the future with the community I'm building. Eventually, I'm hoping to open a nonprofit, and hopefully I can get support from English class providers inside of these individual countries, or maybe someone who is more global to the region, so I can get people accessibility to these things. The cost to entry to Salesforce isn't also necessarily cheap, right? Certifications are $200. English classes maybe aren't as cheap. So for someone who wants to go into this, it's also a financial decision. So I also want to alleviate that as much as possible in the future.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose on that note, do you think that, going forward, there may be more of less of a requirement to know English as more more organizations in country start using Salesforce?
Yeah, like that's a great segue to another interesting thing. Currently, most people that are hired for Salesforce work with clients outside of Latin America, right? Like there are very few companies that are inside of Latin America that have adopted Salesforce. So I guess that's what's really going to be determining that when small to mid-market companies start to adopt Salesforce as well. With that in mind, I feel that the licensing cost may not be the biggest barrier to entry, right? Now that Salesforce has been launching more entry-level subscription, I feel like the biggest issue is the implementation cost, where if you look at companies that are based in these countries, right, they don't want to charge a third or half of what they would usually charge a US customer. So I guess like that's the biggest challenge, that Latin American countries are struggling to pay implementation cost for a US or Canadian company.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Hopefully we get that fixed soon.
Yeah.
So based on your experience so far, and since we don't have that data yet, how do you expect the Salesforce world to evolve over the next few years in Latin America?
Well, there's definitely more events surfacing. There's been a lot more presence too with the community. Like I see this. Well, I see this building more and more momentum. Like it's not stopping. It's just going to increase. Like career fairs, like official events, like everything is coming. I'm confident of that. And like the other piece that is interesting is that it's not only Salesforce, it's also Tableau, it's MuleSoft, it's Slack, and Salesforce releases new products almost yearly. So demand should not be stopping by any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Echo that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was fairly easy. And what advice do you have for people who are experiencing what you experienced not long ago, Jose? Like people who are trying to transition or upskill in Salesforce?
Well, first, I guess join the community. Yeah, like the main thing is research. I plan on doing an article soon on RSS feeds. I think that is essential. With Salesforce, there's definitely an information overload. Like there's thousands of resources. There's a lot of blogs. There's announcements happening all the time. Now you have to keep up with Slack, with MuleSoft, new integrations, how they work together. They're going to acquire someone soon, probably. So that's going to add even more to it. So as a recommendation, RSS feeds are a great way to keep track of everything and make sure you don't miss out on anything. As a Salesforce professional, you're not only, well, one of the key requirements or skills, and I think everyone can agree, is can you Google? Can you find information? So being aware of, for example, automation phasing out in favor of flow is essential, right? If you are going to be designing or architecting new orgs, once you heard that announcement, you should have immediately started to think of how you can achieve the same things through a flow. So information is probably the most important thing.
Completely agree. I thought I was muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
No, yeah, that's really good advice, Jose. Thank you. And everybody who might have missed it, this is his community link. So be sure to sign up because Jose has so many new exciting things coming in as well. So like I said, he's a great resource.
Yeah, to
Thanks.
second that, we've been working with Jose since probably the start of the year, and just the amount of ideas that you have and the energy you bring. So this is going to be a very successful community that everybody here should join.
Yeah, thanks. Likewise, I've had a great time collaborating with you, and shout out to my partner in crime, Lauren. I've had a great time working with her. Yeah, and I can't wait to see how else we can collaborate.
Before we are we hopping to Q&A next?
Not if you have something to say before.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I was just monitoring the comment feed, and Melissa, who's from Alabama, she said both of the Hands-on Connect Cloud Solutions original founders are from Venezuela, and their Scrum Master is in Panama, and most of their developers are in Venezuela and Colombia. So
nice.
There you go. Kind of just reinforces what Jose was saying.
Yeah, and that's something that I would maybe want to get across is that, like, in order for our data to be actionable or for us to truly gain insights from it, we need to be consistent. So hopefully for next year we can, because like the biggest issue is LinkedIn. Just based off search results alone, there doesn't seem to be too many professionals with Salesforce. Like there's pretty much 3 times as many professionals with Tableau in Latin America. So there is a very good chance where there are people who maybe aren't active. So that's maybe something that we wanted to do moving forward for next year, is kind of connect with some of these companies that hire in Latin America. So if you want to reach out, if you're interested in collaborating with us for next year's survey, feel free to send me a DM or send me an email.
Great.
Just as a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions for Lucy or Jose, drop them in the questions below. Once again, this is the survey where we're collecting any and all information that can help us, see how the Salesforce career opportunities in Latin America are progressing. So while we wait for some good questions to come in, we did have one, and let me just pull it up very quickly. Sorry, guys. So Hazel, at Salesforce, are your job opportunities to work remotely or only for those people who are located in the countries that your positions indicate? For instance, I can see many positions for London. I am located in Nicaragua. Can I apply for these positions? Yeah, go ahead, Lucy, if you have something to say. You're muted.
Apologies. I'm guessing that was in reference to Salesforce Ben jobs, the job board. But, it's only just launched. Probably, we'll start reaching out to more global organizations. As for can you work for companies in England, I think there's visa restrictions potentially, but, I'm not familiar with the exact specifications, but I'm sure it's freely available online.
Yes, and if you were speaking about the Salesforce Ben job board, we are, like Lucy said, it has just recently launched, so we are making a lot of effort to expand globally. Hopefully, people who are watching today are also employers who are looking for new candidates from all over the world, from Latin America. So, that's a good resource.
Yeah, maybe to comment on that, that's the same thing that I have, or my problem too, that I'm in El Salvador. Same thing with Nicaragua. No one really searches for Salesforce profiles in these countries. As a recommendation, I would say reach out. You really aren't losing anything by reaching out to the recruiter and asking if they maybe are hiring elsewhere. But for the most part, some of the bigger consulting companies, their policies regarding where you work from are pretty strict. And that maybe segues over to another question that I saw about full-time work versus contractor work. If you are in a situation where you don't see a lot of job openings, maybe that's a consideration. There's a lot of places where you can post your services, things like Upwork and things like that, or you could also potentially reach out to these smaller consulting companies in the US and Canada and try and see if there's an opportunity to work that way.
Mhm.
Mhm. Well, thank you for answering that, Jose. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions for our speakers. Oh, Rafael has a question. Rafael, you're more than welcome to send it in. And if not, I'm so happy that everybody was able to join. And thank you, everybody, for participating. A todos los que hablan español, muchísimas gracias. I don't know if Rafael is going to answer. Yes, but anyway, I do appreciate both of you being here. So thank you so much. Oh, there it is. Do you have...
Honestly, no, but we can probably find something. I would go with official resources always. That's definitely the best practice. So there's a Salesforce certification for Tableau CRM specialist or something like that. That would be my recommendation. Just look at that certification, and there are some associated trails in preparation for that. So that's probably your best bet.
Thank you, Jose.
The question did come in.
Yes, that's why I'm just like, I'm trying to see.
No worries.
Yeah.
So do you have any recommendations for any marketing cloud professionals?
Well, I guess that Salesforce kind of splits several ways. Like once you get some of your core certs and get a couple of years of experience under your belt, you know, you have maybe the admin, advanced admin, platform app builder, then you really have to make a decision, you know, like what route are you going with? Are you going with the marketing cloud? Are you looking to become more of an architect, right? So I do think that marketing cloud is that potential split in your career. There's absolutely a lot of opportunities there. The main thing I would say about that is that if you're looking for architect, consultant, business analyst, right, you're typically working with consulting firms, whereas with marketing cloud, there's also a potential to work with marketing companies and companies that delve in advertising.
Mm-hmm. And because this is quite close to my heart, I would just say that marketing cloud, there's a whole lot of specializations within marketing cloud. So, you know, marketing cloud consultant, like Jose just mentioned, developer, administrator, email specialist, those are all certifications within marketing cloud, the product. So you can really specialize within a specialization. And marketing cloud architect, that's another one. And what I will say is that it is hot. It is very in demand, especially marketing cloud architects are far and few between and are very valuable. Should we address Raphael's question? Because I know he was very keen to have that answered. So about positions in Salesforce, nowadays we see there are more clouds and more tools. Do you believe that there could be more space for highly specialized professionals in a few solutions?
Absolutely. Like Slack is definitely one of those things that's going to blow up. You know, like Salesforce constantly trying to integrate their acquisitions. It's just a matter of time before we start to see Slack being something that is requested more and more of professionals. And who knows, like maybe there's a situation where there's even Slack consultants. I don't know if it warrants as much time, but it's definitely a specialization that is going to be worth it. Like if I were to choose a certification outside of Salesforce, I would probably do the Slack Certified Administrator.
Mm-hmm. Funny you should say that. I am writing an article on it at the moment.
Nice.
Slack consultants and how you know there could be potential for this market. And the way I see it, you know, yes, there are more Salesforce products and clouds and you know specializations within those. And if you get two together and you kind of specialize in both, like a Venn diagram, right? You're in that special section that makes you very unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting to see what comes. So we have a question here from Juan. For a person building their own Salesforce practice from scratch, any advice on specialization?
Focus on sales first.
Yeah.
Sales cloud. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also getting the certs that you need in order to become an official partner. And another thing that's really great to me is the amount of services you can get for free with a smaller organization. You probably don't need paid Slack, so you could potentially use Slack. You can also, well, the Atlassian package, it's free up to 10 users. So there's definitely a lot of resources that are incredible for smaller consulting companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions coming in about applying to a foreign country when you don't have that citizenship. And this is just a blanket statement. Google it. You know, sadly, we're not experts on visa sponsorships for every single country. And some are easier than others. But just like the US, Canada, Chile, anything, we don't really know. So we do encourage you to Google. So, and yes, this live is going to be recorded and estará grabado. So don't worry if you missed anything. But I think that this is it for any questions that we had. So Jose, Lucy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody who watched, and thank you to anybody who's going to be joining the conversation, the survey, Jose's community. And thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, answer the survey and look out for the results post, because I'm really looking forward to getting into that data. And thank you for coming.
Muchas gracias por atender. Los espero en la comunidad.
Adiós. Bye-bye.
Adiós.
See ya.